Jeez. Oh my gosh. Does it get old watching it?
Like right when I finished the video, I was so sick of it. Like I just like I didn't like it. I hated it, and I was just like, I just need to get this off my plate. And then it was after a week, like when it played in the Coliseum. It was like, all right, like I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't get old just because of the story behind it. And I think the story behind it is why it's so special. Just because like I'm about to graduate from USC, so I made that while I was a student at the school. My dad went to USC, like USC. I'm from LA, so USC was such a grounded part of my childhood. So this was a complete full circle. But the video itself, I love it and I think it's super fun. But I think the story behind it is what makes it really special for me, at least.
Yeah, walk me through that.
So I had been in contact with the USC football team for a long time. So 2 years before, so like 2 years ago, I worked with DeAndre Hopkins, and I made his, like when he was on the Cardinals at the time, his comeback video. So that caught the eye of USC football. So we were in contact of, and we would get coffee chats like, what are you up to? Like, this is what I'm up to. What are you guys up to? And we were just trying to find paths to cross. But in the back of my mind, I always had this idea of like a football player jumping out of a plane. Like, I don't know. It was just one of those ideas that you had of like, oh, that could be cool. Like if there's like a moment to hit on. And I was at like the USC like coffee shop and I had this idea of, oh, like USC's joining the Big Ten conference. Um, like they could jump out of a plane and like quote unquote land in the Big Ten conference. Let's tie that in with the Trojan horse theory, or not theory, like the myth. So I had his phone number and I texted him that Friday saying like, hey, can I come in next week? Like I have an idea. That was it. And he said, yeah, sure, come on Tuesday. So I spent that weekend making the pitch deck, and I went in on Tuesday, and first deck, like the first slide was Arrival the Trojan, a modern twist on the Trojan horse myth, and ran them through the idea. And they loved it from the jump, I think. And then it was just a matter of like pulling it off and just going from there. It was that saying of like having a rational plan with irrational confidence, just stepping into the room and saying like, yo, like I have this idea. I know it's gonna hit. I know it's gonna land. Let's do it. And they were down and they matched my energy. And so that story is true. That story is true of just walking in there. I had this idea. They said, let's do it. And we just moved forward. It was one of those moments that I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
So that weekend, as you're doing this pitch deck, are you are you starting with like transitions? Are you starting with the story, the feeling? Because it's a hype video, so you know that it has to be high energy. But it's like, okay, how do we get, I think the best hype videos, it still has like this down, this lull, this it build up to the energy. Because if it's all hype, then nothing's hype, right? So like when you're doing this pitch deck and starting it out, what are you starting with?
I try to start with like, how can I wrap this video up in one sentence? Like a log line. I start with a log line. So the log line was a modern twist on the Trojan horse myth, USC football players jumping out of a plane, landing in the Coliseum, arriving in the Big Ten conference. So that's what I started with. So that's what I knew what it was. And then that's when I started treating, like, I think every video should have, and every director thinks differently, but this kind of helps frame my ideas is I think there should be, think of it like a slideshow. Like there should be one really cool moment or like one thing that's constantly changing every 10 seconds. So like the first couple of seconds you see like the logo, and then it cuts to something that has nothing to do with football. And so it's kind of setting the precedent of, all right, like this is going to be a football hype video, especially college football hype video that nobody's ever seen before. That's kind of what I was leading with, was like usually hype edits have footage in them. We're only going to be using custom green screen footage that we're shooting just for this video. But in terms of that pitch deck, I tend to break it down of like, all right, here's what the Trojan War is, or the Trojan horse thing. This is what it's going to feel like. It's going to be frozen in time. This is what it's going to feel like. And then we're going to cut to like the inside of this room. We don't know where we are yet. And then it's the plane, and then jumping out of a plane, landing in the Coliseum. So each slide was introducing something new to the story, and it just kept on building up until the final shot when the Coliseum is on the mountain, which is a reference to it's like that really famous like Big Ten conference commercial where the schools are like popping around the mountain. So it's kind of like a play on that. Um, and then you see the final callback of the plane. So in terms of organizing my ideas, I just try to keep the story evolving and moving, but keeping it within like the brackets of that log line that I create in the beginning, just so it doesn't go like super crazy. Like like try to keep it super crazy within this like
Bounded
paraphrase. I don't keep it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got it. I got it. Because you also need boundaries too. Because then it could have just been like some random stuff. And I like how you guys didn't use like footage of actual highlights and stuff. Because that could be hype, but it's like, yeah, this felt like it felt so much like a movie. Like so surreal. And pitching it, obviously, you get the creative team behind it. And they're down. Obviously, the players are like, okay, cool. Let me, we're down for anything that will make us look good or whatever. But as you're explaining it to them, are they getting it? I know you're showing them. That's how you guys showing them certain clips and like how the idea was. But I can only imagine how they felt when they saw this, because it's different when you film. You're a green screen. You're doing all these, doing all this kind of stuff. And then when they see themselves, did you talk to them after and they were like, "Dude, what the like? This is crazy. This is crazy."
Yeah. I mean, just because I'm a student at USC, or I mean, I'm about to graduate, but at the time it was like the start of my senior year. So I'm walking around and I'm like seeing the football players on the campus and they're coming up to me and they're like, what the fuck? Like, that was insane. That was crazy. Or I would like go back to the USC football office or like the gym or whatnot just to like hang out. Just because, I mean, I'm sure you completely understand when you're working on such a heavy, intensive project like this, like you become close with those you're working with. So people at USC football, like especially the creative team, they become like family to me. And so I would go back and I would see the football players and they would freak out and they're like, how, like, I can't believe that's what it turned out to be. Like, I remember you explaining it on set, but um
Yeah.
but as I think as a director, like I did a good job at like containing what their particular involvement in the video would be. So like, okay, certain players knew that they would be the one who would land in the Coliseum or they would be in front, but they didn't necessarily need to know like the whole technical side of how the Trojan War sequence was supposed to come out. So it was kind of just feeding them certain pieces, just to make sure that as an actor, because they were acting in this film, they were actors. They had to just they weren't getting too confused. But yeah, they freaked out. I think the first time that they saw the video was in the locker room before they ran out of the tunnel for the first game against LSU in
No,
Vegas.
wait. That was the first time that they saw it?
Yeah, that was the first time. There were no phones or camera allowed in the room, but apparently it was a good showing. That's what I've heard is that people were going crazy. Chairs were thrown. Well, actually, I don't know about that, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll say it was.
uh,
We'll say the truth,
yeah,
bro.
yeah, but it was a bad day to be a locker room. It was a bad day to be a locker room.
No. Yeah, and it is a performance for them. Like they perform on the field doing the stuff, but performance and acting is totally different. You still need to bring that certain energies or containment and whatever you need to do. So yeah, you did a great job directing them, and I'm sure that it's cool that this project probably will create this like crazy bond that you guys have, the whole team, the creative team, you guys, and like forever. Like you guys will always remember it. And watching you watch it on the field and like it was surreal. It was crazy. I was like, man, that must be such a crazy feeling inside, especially since you wanted to do this since you were younger. I got some questions just about the video and things like that. So this is what you're talking about, right? Starting off into here. The choice to do like the black and white first. Why did you choose to do that?
That's actually interesting you ask, because I knew right away I wanted it to be black and white. I had some people wanting it to be in color, but I
Mm.
always knew I wanted it to be black and white because I wanted it to stand really different from the plane sequence. And also, I think black and white subconsciously infers like, oh, we're in the past. And I think just because like with black and white films, like in the past, and I think at least whenever I watch movies and we cut back in time and it's in black and white, that's like a really easy thing to connect to the viewer. And I just wanted to infer like, all right, we are back in time, but this is like a reference. I also think it made the frame a little bit more simple and more focused on the contrast, which made it a lot more intense in my mind. And it also made that beat switch, like when it was just the eyes in the helmet, and then when he like hit the ball and then all the color turned on, that made that moment even more powerful. So it just made all the switches. We went from like 0 to 100 in a lot of those moments.
Yeah. Wild transition. That's crazy. This is all visual effects, the helmet, right?
Yes.
Like
So
this part.
that shot, the only thing that's real are the eyes.
Yeah, because it was
So
actual. I saw in the behind the scenes, it was actual play or whoever you guys used for it.
yeah, that was like a continuation of that shot with all the players. So we just masked out the eyes and put like the helmet and the armor on. So those are actually the quarterback's eyes.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
like his actual eyes, which is
That's
why that
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, that's like his actual eyes. And what we did on set was that my DP Eric Michael, he was bringing it back, and then I had just like a switch on my phone to turn the lights. So we had like one setting where it was like front lighting, and then I just clicked a button and the key light turned off, and then we had a red overhead light turn on, and then that's when we cut it. So it was super like it was nothing super special on set. It was just
That's like
thinking,
practical though. Like, yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. So it was just thinking like an editor, like how can this work, and ended up working out.
What? That is wild. And yeah, when you talk about contrast too, like this, how deep the blacks are is like crazy. I love it. It's like nothing, right? Like nothingness. For a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I try to just keep it very minimal, especially when you're kind of zooming up towards the helmet. My goal was to kind of have the viewer be like, "What is this?" And then
yeah.
when the eyes come on, that's when it's supposed to click like, "Oh, this
How
is a helmet." And this is like a super hectic frame. Yeah, the goal was to kind of give like 75, 60% candid to people and then kind of leave the rest up. I don't know. My goal is to always keep the viewer guessing on like what's going to happen next. I think this project did a good job at showing my ideology of just less is more.
yeah. And like it's always good when you let the audience have a little bit of imagination. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like they're not stupid, so you don't have to give them everything. You know, it's always
Right.
fun for them to kind of connect the dots. Dude, I love that. So even stuff like this, something small like this movement, is that all done in post? Like, I mean, like you guys thinking about this and how you can transition from that shot to this opening.
Correct.
Because you know you could
Yeah.
just do a cut, but I felt like it wouldn't have the same effect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I wanted everything to feel like together in this world. One thing I try to do is like in every single shot reveal something new. So like in this shot, the reveal where like the players and the door opening up, and then when it cut, the reveal was like the plane. So and also I think having long takes just immerses the viewer into the story. And also these long takes in the beginning then cut really well when the beat comes in. It's like banana 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 banana, and it just cutting right away. It's almost like a beat switch in itself. In terms of that shot particularly, I made the animatic to this video before the shoot. So I knew what we were going to shoot for. I knew how I wanted to direct the actor. So what we did was that we were panning backwards and then he just tilted the camera up. And then for the next shot, he just tilted down. And then we connected that movement with like a 3D camera to like stitch those two cameras together.
Ah. Yeah, so all of this, it's still like the actual camera movement, but then
Right. Like right here when it's turning, that's 3D. And now this is the actual camera movement.
damn, okay. That's wild. Did you do all the 3D stuff as well?
It was me and my friend. His name is Zeke Wagner. His Instagram is Wolf Tech. Him and his company of 457. We spearheaded the 3D together. It was a heavy lift for sure, but it was a
Yeah.
good time.
Incredible, man. You guys did an incredible job. And like things like this. So the shot coming through the plane like this too. It's incredible to me because like I would have never thought of that. I like you said, I always think like, okay, what if they just cut it, it wouldn't have the same effect. But to think that it's coming through like the side of the plane through these vents and then seeing the insides. Now I understand when you're like, okay, creating this whole world and like the little details of it. That's interesting. Did that idea come from anywhere? Like, well, how did you even think of like, okay, yo, we're gonna go through the grates in between this part of the plane?
I think it came from just having fun with it, and just that word what if, like what if we do this, what if we do this, what if we do this, and if it works out in the edit before. I think that's the beauty with doing a lot of 3D and VFX work as just like an editor and a director, is that you can, like, whatever you come up with, you can, if there's like a will, there's a way. And I think it was, this project was definitely a big, like, what if we do this? What if we do this? What if we do this? In my mind, I always try to connect two locations in one shot. And the locations being like outside the plane and then inside the plane. And if you can connect that with one shot, then that just like really immerses and just makes that world building even stronger. It just continues that theory of or just the ideology of like what's going to come next, what's going to come next. And especially in this piece, like the beginning was supposed to build up to then when we start cutting, because I do think cutting is super important because that builds momentum, and that just shows different angles. But just holding on to the shot for a little bit longer than you think you can just really brings in that world that you're talking about.
Like I've never really worked with 3D, and I wish I had gone into it because I feel like sky's the limit when like you could have such a crazy imagination because you're like, oh, we could do this technically, like we could. And a lot of aspiring filmmakers, it's tough to think like that. Like everyone has these great ideas and whatever, but the moment you can understand 3D or people who have a good grasp on it, I feel like it changes the way that you create ideas, you direct, because it literally probably feels like, oh, we could do this. Oh, this is easy. Like, when did you start understanding that and getting into like the 3D stuff?
For my entire life, I've always been a sponge. Like I've always been trying to learn, and I've always been trying to learn something new. So I started out editing, and then I got the camera. And then when COVID hit, just because being in LA, like we were super locked down, I didn't really have anything to do. I started learning 3D and like visual effects in high school because I was a junior in high school when COVID hit. So that's when I started learning, and I was in quarantine for like a year. I mean, obviously it, like, I also had a life, but mainly like it was like mainly 3D, and I just kind of super learned for that entire year. And then right when I got into USC as a freshman, work started to pick up, and there's no better way to learn than through experience. And then just working on these projects throughout college, and I've been super blessed to have a platform to do so. That's when my learning really exceeded. Now just keep on going, I guess. So I started in high school, but I'm still learning. I'm still going. I'm still learning.
That's so sick. And dude, if there's anything else that you, as we're scrubbing through this, that you want to talk about, just let me know. I got a whole bunch of questions, but if you have any details or anything that you want to actually talk
Yeah,
about,
I mean, there's one moment inside the plane that I've never heard anybody like say it before, and I'm surprised nobody said it yet. But right there. Nobody's ever said this before, but that's the Heisman Trophy behind them. Yeah, that's something that I'm like nobody's ever really said before, but like the Heisman Trophy's right there, and USC football has the most Heisman trophies out of like all the programs. So that was just trying to put in little stuff of saying like USC's the best, like we're the
yeah,
best, like we are Hollywood, like we're gonna make this like crazy movie. That was the goal, was to leverage USC football's program and like their reputation, just to release a video that nobody, like no other college football program can do, or honestly just any like football program in general.
yeah.
um
Wow, what a
yeah,
detail. I love that little details in it.
yeah, just trying to like put, and there's like national championship trophies in there too. They're like very much in the background, but I think if you were to pause and look at the frames as like if you were like a really big USC football like diehard fan, or just a football fan in general, I think it kind of takes it to that next level because it's really grounded as Like this is a locker room, but it's also inside of a plane. I guess moreover, like I don't think a lot of people know this story, but we shot this like inside the Coliseum. Like we shot it inside the Coliseum in like their like presidential suite on the prop up green screen with three lights. Like it wasn't like this was a labor of love by like everybody who was involved in it. And there weren't a lot of people involved. There weren't a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We kept it very small for that reason, just because we knew it was going to be really special. But yeah, I mean, we shot this in like inside the Coliseum, which is ironic because then they ended up playing in the Coliseum. It was kind of like a one of those like destiny, like planting seeds type of thing.
I feel
Yeah.
like you wouldn't want it any other way though. You know what I mean? I felt like maybe
Yeah.
that's also what gave it so much life for everyone
Mhm.
involved. Like, yeah, it's definitely I felt like it's definitely way better. How many people were actually working on this project?
On the actual set, it was me and the football creative team. So it was me directing, and we had our producer who would drive a pickup truck, and I would be like sitting in the back of the pickup truck, and we would go and pick up the players from their like apartments around USC, and they would jump in the back of the truck, and I would be in the back of the truck with like an Arrival of Trojan hoodie, and I would tell them, I would like hype them up about the idea, and obviously they the players were stoked to be in this video. And then when we got there, we would like park outside the Coliseum. We would like take the elevator up the stadium. And then we had our DP, who was a part of the football creative team. And then we had two gaffers who are also part of the USC football creative team. And that was it. Like that was it. Like boots on the ground working on the project. It was a labor of love for sure. And we had fun with it. I mean, they knew the players really well. I started to get to know the players really well. Ended up just the set was fun. Like we obviously playing music. It was a good time, but it was a small team. But I liked it that way. I wouldn't have wanted it anything different. You know, I think it made it a lot more intimate for us.
Those are like some of the best projects I feel like when you're starting out when it is like that small. It just feels like this rugged team of just like a core platoon of people that is kind of doing everything. Like yeah, you have your but like sometimes you're doing stuff that you're like, man, I'm doing so much, but I wouldn't want it any other way. I want to
Right.
do have my hands on every piece of this thing at all times. In terms of like the actual production, how long were like the shooting? So you guys started June 1st, or I think that's what that was in doc, June 1st, and it premiered September 1st. I think like a good 3 months, right? So in those
Mm-hmm.
3 months, can you break down like, okay, how much shooting did you guys do in like how many days? And then I can only assume the editing and stuff like that was long or pre-production. I don't know if that includes the pre-production.
Pre-production, we spent most of the good amount of time in May working on pre-production, which pre-production was mainly just creating the shot list and working on the animatic to make sure we're getting the right shots. And but what we did is that we shot this video during the day of June 1st, and then there were actually two other weekends because how we kind of packaged this project was we shot this project during the day, so we would bring in a few players as they were available. And then at night, we would work with USC football recruits. So, like, high school recruits would come in and then they would use the same green screen. And how we packaged the project was like, we'll get a rival Trojan. And then we'll also, earlier, like, we'll get these recruiting videos, which these recruiting videos were the recruits like standing in front of the Coliseum and then in front of the LA skyline and then on the Hollywood sign, but it reads like Trojans. And then the stars of the sky turn into the Walk of Fame, like the stars, and it had their name on it. And that was a way of okay, like now we have the green screen set up, so we'll do the recruiting videos, but then during the day we'll shoot this video also. But that was also a way of establishing trust of like me as a student coming in to this like one of the biggest football programs in the nation saying, hey, I want to do this massive project. It's like, okay, well, how about you do our recruiting videos, and if those do really well, then you can do this video. And over time, I ended up establishing their trust because those recruiting videos went viral in like the college football space. like while I'm shooting these recruiting videos, I have the Arrival of Trojan like varsity jacket on. So then now the coaches and everybody coming up like asking like what's Arrival of Trojan, like what is his jacket? Um, and I kind of had to say like you'll see like coming out
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for the
yeah.
for the season trailer, and then that obviously did its thing too. So that was the month of June. So June was working on the recruiting videos to establish the trust for Arrival of Trojan. So we filmed those over like 3 weekends, and then July and August was working on the post production side. So me and Zeke and the VFX company 457, we worked together doing the 3D cameras and just the whole shebang for a long time. That month of July was definitely getting like our feet set, doing everything. But the last 2 weeks, especially that last week of August, was a massive push. I mean, I'm sure everybody who's touched a camera understands, but it was like all nighters every night,
No, so yeah.
putting in the most, like doing everything we can, making sure every frame is as good as it can be, like doing sound and the score was a complete custom score by my like really good friends Mick Fronte and George Heffley. Like they're the best. They're so talented. Like everybody put in like a massive effort. They were former USC students as well, so we like really brought together like the USC squad, which really put in a lot of heart into this project. And I mean, we wrapped color at 4 a.m. and then it was posted at 7 a.m. So we really
What?
like I definitely used that deadline, took advantage of the deadline. I just wanted to make it as good as possible and making sure everything up until the color was as good as it could be. I think that was a part of the reason why I was like, "Oh, get this off my plate," because it's just because it was just taking over my life. But I'm glad that me and the team went to the very last second and put in the effort. Yeah, the post production was definitely a big push because we wanted a challenge to create as unique 3D cameras as possible and make sure every frame was good. And
In terms of the editing, is like how do you even start? Because I wouldn't even know. It's different when you're just doing like commercial stuff, but when 3D is involved, it's like do the 3D stuff I'm assuming comes after all these are kind of put in place as like a placeholder, and then are you just starting to build that way?
correct. Yeah, so after we shot, I edited everything together, of like everything like when they're in the plane putting on the helmets, or like when the players are outside the Coliseum. I would put that all in the timeline, or like certain shots when there's like that ultra big like Coliseum shot. Like I put like a placeholder there just because that wasn't like that's a 3D camera shot, because then all the players were on tripods. Like that was like a tripod shot, so we had to put them in there. So I timed out the whole edit, and then from there we created 3D cameras for every single shot, and then we went into building like the 3D models for everything. Whether those were like pre-made, like the Coliseum, or the plane, which was a lot more custom made, just because we had to create the inside and the outside all as one, like all one package together 3D model. So that was custom. So after the 3D cameras, we then made the 3D models, and then we lit everything. So then going in and like making sure all the lighting is looking right, and then rendering everything, rendering all the 3D shots, and then compositing. So then going back into the shots and making sure the keying is looking good, and the lighting is looking good, and matching levels like highlights and shadows and saturation, just the whole shebang.
God damn.
And then like for compositing, just adding like kind of some smoke overlays, just the little things just to make sure, or like shadows on the ground, just making sure that they really look like they're there. And then export to color and sound. I mean, that's definitely a very like surface level, just
Yeah, yeah.
because like some 3D cameras were a lot easier than others. Like that shot of him throwing out the plane took a long time to get that 3D camera right. Yeah, this shot right here,
This
because
was the
how
next quick thing I was gonna ask about. So yeah, definitely talk about this. Okay, I'm gonna play so people can watch it because this part I was like, what?
yeah, this is nuts.
Crazy.
That was one of those shots of like what if we do, like what if he just throws it out the back of the plane? Like I've like I try breaking the fourth wall as much as possible and like actually grabbing the camera and shoving it out. But I knew that because he obviously wasn't going to jump out the back of the plane, so we had to find some sort of way to hide him so that we could seamlessly transition to a 3D model of him. The way we shot it was so funny. Like our DP was on like a rolling chair and I was holding a beam light there. I posted like a behind the scenes clip of this and I'm like action and he just grabs it. He's like he's not actually yelling and then he just throws it out and then somebody pulls the chair that the DP's sitting on and just like rolls it backwards and he's like on the chair going like this. So that's like a vertical movement back. And then in the 3D software is that I tracked that 3D camera and then dipped the camera below the door that was down because it was down because the door opened earlier. So the audience like subconsciously knew the door was going to be down. So then the camera, that 3D camera, dipped below, and then that's when we would like cut away from the live action plate, and then the camera just sat there for a little bit because subconsciously you're like, okay, well this player needs to take a few steps to jump off of here, so that's going to take a second. And then the 3D model just like comes out of nowhere. And it ended up working out. That's like one of the beauties of being a director, but also focusing and you're the one in the weeds, like doing the 3D and the VFX and the editing work. So you know like what is like the easiest way to pull this off. So it started with that vision of, oh, he should throw the camera out the back of the plane and then jump out. It's like, oh, well, then how? And it's all about just that saying less is more. And how can we use the camera to pull this off? So the trick was to dip below the door to then hide the live action plate.
Yeah.
So then the 3D model can run out and jump out. And that ended up making the moment cooler too, because there's that empty moment of like, where's the player? And then he just jumps out of nowhere. And it's one of those things that you're expecting it, but you're not really expecting it. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite shots I've ever made, and probably for a long time. That one's super fun.
This one is my favorite. Every time I watch it, I'm like, just it's the build up. Like you were talking, something as simple as, the audience gets it because in the previous shot you see the door opening. You know what I mean? Like, so subconsciously that it's open already. So it's like you don't really have to explain it. So you've kind of already like stitched the storyline together or like with the visuals together.
That shot when he's throwing it out the back of the plane, that's that saying of like keep the audience guessing, because right when you start, like the first second or the first 2 seconds, you still think you're inside the plane because all in the frame you see is red. Like, yeah, if you were to like scrub back, like right when this video starts, like right when this clip starts, because before the camera was just in the back, what was just like in the plane. Yeah. So we think that we're still in the plane because you don't see like any blue or the sky in the frame at all. And then when he throws it out, that's when you're like, oh, now we're outside. Now we're in the back of the plane. Like this. Now when that blue seeps into the corners of the frame, now it's like, oh, now we're at the back of the plane. Oh, now we're jumping. And then when he flies past and then we see the field, it's like, oh, this is why we're flying right now. It's because we're going to the stadium. So it's that motto I try to keep in the back of my mind, just as a director and as a storyteller. It's like every single shot should reveal something new, or at least try to. So that's not always possible, but try to reveal something new in every single shot, just because it keeps the story going. And I'm talking about a story that's told in like a minute or 2 minutes. Like, obviously, that has its boundaries, but it just keeps the audience guessing, and it just keeps it fun and keeps it low pressure, and it just keeps it fun.
This is probably one of my favorites too. Like that, the hilt.
So when he like stabs the sword in the middle of the field, that's like USC football tradition. Like before the game starts, like the mascot comes out on the field and he like stabs the ground. He goes like, whoa. So that actually happens in the game.
That's cool.
Which kind of helped ground it in like USC tradition. And like quick story about that transition. So we were on the green screen set, and at the time it was just gonna cut. I forgot what it was. and I was with the DP, and I'm holding the sword, just kind of looking at it, and it was actually his idea. He was saying, "What if like the hilt of the sword turns into the torch?" And I was like, yeah, like that's so
Yeah,
cool, like that's awesome. And then in that moment, we ended up like changing the shot. And I think that just shows like the value of collaboration, where like as a director, or even just like anything, like no matter what your role is, like it's so important to kind of let go of the pressure and just have fun like with your friends, because that's what it's all about. Like it's all about the journey and like how things are made. The journey and the collaboration is obvious when a project turns out and it's super fun. Like I think this project is a really good representation of like it's all about the people, and it takes a village to make something happen. And as long as you're having fun on set, you're having fun in post production, because it can easily be not fun. Like it can easily be really stressful, but my goal is to make sure it's fun and people are having fun. And then when people are having fun, they have these crazy ideas of, let's transition the hilt of the torch, or the hilt of the sword to the torch, and that's definitely the cherry on top in the video.
what was the initial what was the initial transition or the idea prior to this? Or was there even an idea like after he does this?
Like when he stabs the ground, it would have cut to the player like in front of the Coliseum, and then it would have just like zoomed into the top of the torch and turned it on. And the fire would have turned on. So it would have been a similar zoom, but this just connected the two, um and just focusing on like silhouettes and whatnot.
Dude, don't you love those moments where someone says something and it just clicks? The idea's
Yeah,
like,
so
this
yeah.
this makes so much sense. It's like we don't even need to agree. As soon as you say it, that idea in your head is like, I see it. This is
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. That feeling is like euphoric. It's wild.
It's awesome.
You talking about collaboration, and I'm just thinking about this. It's like this whole thing is like a collaboration, even like going back into like time, because you said that I don't know anything about this. So when you talked about tradition, like having someone who started this tradition way back when, imagine they saw this. Let's just say for some reason they come back and they're like, this, I know exactly what this is. So it almost feels like this big collaboration, people at USC, like tradition, values. You know what I mean? And I think that's what makes it so good, and it means so much. And to people who don't know about this, it already is amazing to us. So I can only imagine other students, other former students, people who went, your dad, so watching this is like, God damn. There's just like
Yeah,
collaboration over time, I almost feel like.
yeah, it's yeah, wow, that's such a beautiful way of putting it, of collaboration over time. I mean, when I was at the games or just walking around, or I gave like a couple like just presentations of on this piece, like during parents weekend, for example, like parents weekend, and a lot of grandparents came up to me saying like, I went to school here when I was in college, and these are now like grandparents, like this video blew me away. Like the just traditions in the video, like the sword stabbing or the torch turning on, like that happens before the fourth quarter. That's like a tradition that happens every game. Just that focus on like USC football heritage, going all the way back to like the gladiator days. But also, one of my goals was to make this like a staple, and kind of try to make this like a new game day tradition where there's a lot of focus on the intro video, because that is what left a big mark on me. And I think there's something so special about like intro videos at sports, just like sports games in general, is that that's like it can be like a mini concert if you treat it that way. I think this video, as the jumbotron video, like when the lights turned off, and that was extremely special. But I mean, this video was made to be played in a stadium. Like it was meant to be big and fun, but it was also meant to relate to those who went to college here like 60 years ago, because
Yeah.
it still hits. It still hits because that USC alumni and just that culture, it's so strong here, especially in LA. And my goal was to make another, like a flag point in USC culture.
What's next for you?
Well, for a long time, because I kind of went quiet after this video released, was because I had to focus on graduating. I mean, I was a
That's
senior, and
crazy
like
too. That's a whole other thing. And I'm like, what? You're still like a student. Like you're graduating this year. That's wild.
yeah, I had to focus. I had to graduate. Like I made it this far, and I think there were opportunities where I could have not done that, but I'm really grateful that I stayed in school and like I lived out like my senior year. I'm graduating in a week, which is crazy.
Dude, congrats.
And
Congrats.
thank you so much. And I am working on something new, and it's in the same vein as this story. I think that's kind of all I can say, but it's definitely like the next step up, and I can't wait because I think it's gonna hit really hard, like how this one hit, and I think it's a good like next step. Like I think it makes sense in this like story, this like career I'm trying to build for myself. And I think this next step definitely makes a lot of sense, and I'm excited. It's not necessarily a sequel, but if you were reading a book, it would make sense that it's the next chapter.
That's amazing. Any advice for filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers at your age, getting into it or starting?
I mean, I would say that saying of having a rational plan with irrational confidence is the best thing that you can do, is moving forward with this confidence. And that can look in many ways. That can be walking into your football program's office saying like, I have this idea, we have to do this, and being resilient even though like it may not seem like it might happen at times, but you're still moving with that confidence. Like, no, I know this is going to happen, and keep on trying to prove yourself. Or it can be like walking around and your posture straight, and like your shoulders are back and your chest is up. Like that confidence is key. And you are your own biggest fan. And I think confidence is just the biggest thing. And I guess another piece would be just surrounding yourself with people who you feel like will make you better. And whether that's like waking up early and doing something for yourself in the beginning of the day, like going to the gym or like going to bed early, or being willing to like stay up with you during those late nights and working on a video, or even just like working on yourself. Because it really does take a team, and it really does take a village. And I think I've been so blessed to like be here at the USC Cinema School, where I've met so many people who I'll be working with for the rest of my lives, and they're some of my best friends. Um, that's key. So it's important who you surround yourself with, and also just move with like the most confidence as you can.